Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to break down the blueprint for creating what you could honestly call super soil. It's all about engineering a perfect self-sustaining little world for your plants, and it all comes down to three key components working together in perfect harmony.
This quote really hits the nail on the head. We're not just talking about, stirring some stuff into dirt. We're talking about building a complete life support system that can totally change the game for your plants. So, how in the world do these three things pull that off?
Okay, the easiest way to wrap your head around this is to think of it like you're building a house, a perfect home, not just for your plants, but for the millions of tiny microbes they depend on. And in this little construction project, each part of our soil trinity has a very specific and very important job.
First up, we've got biochar. Think of this as the permanent framework of the house. The studs, the drywall, the foundation. It's this incredibly porous, charcoal-like stuff that creates millions of tiny rooms and hallways. Basically a giant permanent apartment complex for all those good microbes.
Okay, so you've got the house built, right? Now you need to fill it up. And that's where compost comes in. It's everything. It's the food in the pantry, and it's also the residents themselves. It brings in all the essential nutrients and the actual life, the bacteria and fungi that are going to move into that biochar framework.
And every house needs good plumbing. That's the job of the hydrogel. This stuff is basically a super sponge. It acts as a massive water reservoir, holding onto it and then delivering it whenever it's needed, making sure everyone living in our little microbial city stays hydrated and happy.
All right, now this is where things get really cool. Two of these ingredients, biochar and hydrogel, they form what you could call a super composite. See, on their own, each one has a pretty big weakness, but when you put them together, their weaknesses cancel each other out, and they create this perfect partnership.
Think about it. Raw biochar can be kind of brittle. And get this, at first it actually repels water. Yeah, it's hydrophobic. Not exactly what you want in your garden, right? Then you've got hydrogel. It's a rock star at holding water for sure, but structurally it's basically jelly. It's weak, it's mushy, and it doesn't offer any kind of home for microbes. They're both incomplete. But put them together, and bam! It's like magic. The hydrogel provides a constant source of moisture, turning the biochar into this protected microbial reef that never dries out. The biochar grabs onto nutrients like a battery, and the hydrogel delivers the water that lets the plants actually use that stored energy. And to top it all off, the hard biochar particles act like rebar in concrete, making the squishy hydrogel way stronger in the soil.
Okay, but here's the catch, and it's a big one. This amazing synergy only works if you combine everything in the right way. The how and the when are absolutely critical. You can't just toss them all in a bucket at the end and call it a day. There's a specific technique that makes all the difference.
And that secret technique is called co-composting. It's super simple. It just means you add the biochar to your organic waste, your kitchen scraps, your leaves, right at the very start of the composting process, not after it's already finished. This infuses the biochar with life and nutrients from day one.
So, why bother with this extra step? Well, first off, it charges the biochar. Raw biochar is like a hungry, empty sponge. If you just throw it in your garden, it can actually suck up valuable nutrients. Co-composting preloads it, so it's ready to give from day one. It also grabs onto nasty nitrogen gases, which means your compost pile smells way better. And it can even help the pile heat up and finish faster. It's a win-win-win.
So the big takeaway here, the most important thing to remember, is that your biochar goes into the soil fully loaded. It's already colonized with life, it's packed with nutrients, it's ready to start contributing immediately instead of taking things away from your soil.
All right, so that's the what and the why. Now for the fun part, the how. How do you actually put this all into practice? Let's walk through the simple three-step action plan to build this system the right way.
It's honestly pretty straightforward. First, you make that charged compost. Just add about 5 to 10% biochar by volume to your fresh compost pile. Then, once the compost is all finished, dark and crumbly, you mix in the dry hydrogel granules. And finally, the most important part, you work that finished mix directly into the plant's root zone.
And listen, I really need to hammer this point home. You cannot just sprinkle this mix on the surface of the soil. That's called top dressing, and it just won't work here. The hydrogel has to be buried down where the roots are so it can act as that deep soil plumbing system we've been talking about.
You see, when you follow these steps, you've done way more than just add some amendments to your soil. You have literally engineered a complete, resilient, and self-regulating life support system.
So let's do a quick lightning round recap. The hydrogel, that's your water tank. The biochar, that's the apartment building and the structural support. And the compost, that's the food that charges the whole system and brings in the residents. What you get in the end isn't just a mix, it's a fully integrated system that creates a living, breathing soil.
So what's the bottom line here? The big takeaway? By putting these three things together in the right order, you create a soil that is just fundamentally more resilient. It holds water like crazy, it's packed with food and life, and it supports plants that don't just survive, they absolutely thrive, especially when conditions get tough.
This approach is a total game changer, especially for things like high-value vegetable gardens, or when you're planting trees that you want to be around for a long, long time. It really is a blueprint for building lasting success right into your soil. Which leaves us with just one final question. Now that you have the blueprint, what will you build with it?